Welcome to Elementary Functions. Today we're going to talk about angles. My name is Wendy Fresh and I'm from Portland Community College and this is Math 112. So let's begin talking about the definition of an angle. Angles can be seen everywhere. From sports to architecture, their influence is evident. Just like the golfer in this picture, we can see that there's an angle between the golf green and the golf club. So what is an angle? An angle consists of two rays that have a common endpoint. But what is a ray? A ray consists of one point on a line and extends in just one direction. If you look at the picture on the right, we can see that we're starting at point E and extending through point F. The common endpoint that two rays share is called the vertex. And usually we use Greek letters in trigonometry that are used to describe angles. To make sure that you're aware of what these angles are, I've listed some below. The first one is called theta. The next one that looks a little bit like an A is called alpha. The one that looks like a B is called beta. And finally, the last one is gamma. As the rays of an angle open up, as we can see in the picture to the right of the architecture of this building, the ray that remains in a fixed position is called the initial side. And then the ray that rotates open is called the terminal side. An angle is in standard position if its vertex is located at the origin and its initial side extends along the positive x-axis. In the picture to the right, you see an example of an angle in standard position. Along the positive x-axis, you see the initial side where the angle begins, and then as that angle rotates open, it ends on the terminal side. And of course, it's beginning at its vertex, which is the origin, and the point 0, 0. Let's take a look at an example, but before we do that, there's some vocabulary that needs to be defined. Positive angles are measured from the initial side in a counterclockwise direction. Negative angles are measured from the initial side in a clockwise direction. If you think about the way that the minute and the hour hand move on a clock, that's what we mean by clockwise direction. The opposite of that would be counterclockwise direction. And making one full revolution around the circle would produce an angle of 360 degrees. So we have two things that are being asked. First, to sketch an angle of 120 degrees. Second, to sketch an angle of negative 240 degrees, both in standard position. Now what we mean by standard position is, as you recall, we're going to start at the origin with our vertex, and then our initial side will be on that positive x-axis. So there it is in blue. 120 degrees, I'll start with that. Since it's positive, I'm going to move counterclockwise. And what I know about this circle, because it's broken up into 4 parts, and because all 4 parts have to add up to 360 degrees, if I take 360 degrees and I divide it by 4, that's going to tell me that up at the top is my 90 degrees, halfway around would be 180 degrees, and 3/4 of the way around will be 270 degrees. Now that's going to help me just a little bit when I go to find 120 degrees, because what I know is that 120 degrees is definitely not going to be in the first quadrant. In fact, 120 degrees is going to be 30 degrees beyond that 90-degree angle, and I'm going to estimate that that is right here. Okay, so let me just continue that and do an arrow to show my direction. Okay, so let me mark that in, 120 degrees. Now, for the negative 240 degree angle, I'm again going to start with my vertex at the origin, and I'm going to start with my initial side on the positive x-axis, but this time I'm going to move clockwise. And so I'm going to go negative 90 degrees. I'm going to go negative 180 degrees. And now from negative 180 degrees to negative 240 degrees is another 60 degrees. Well, if you recall, I said that this little piece was 30 degrees. And so to get me to the end of that quadrant would be another 60 degrees. 180 plus 60 is 240. So it looks like my 120 degree angle and my negative 240 degree angle share the same terminal side. When two angles that begin in standard position share the same terminal side, we say that those angles are coterminal.